By then, I think India had like 21 cases or something like that.
Okay.
But we didn't know that our country will act so fast,
Okay.
right? So they started closing all the bordering neighboring countries, flights of all the neighboring countries. So then we booked another flight, which also got cancelled. Then we booked our third flight, which also got cancelled.
My
And
God.
then we booked our fourth flight, and we went to the airport, and we were almost at the check-in counter, and he's like, "We can't let you board." We are like, "Oh no, like what are we going to do now?" So we literally started sobbing at the airport, but after that we got back, and like I called my husband. I was like, "I just need to come back home and like just book some flight. All I need now is like home." I was like, "I hope I come back home." Otherwise, we had something ready. So in Cambodia, there is this street, and there is one Indian family living there, and they serve South Indian food, and like I think they are like Tamilians who have an Indian restaurant or something like that. So me and my friend had decided, in case we're going to be stuck in Cambodia for 2-3 months, I'm going to go to their house and I'm going to work there, and I'll be like, for next 3 months I'm going to stay here. So we're like, okay. Hi everyone, welcome to the Lalith Dhanush show. Warm welcome to my guest right here.
Yeah, well, guys, as you see, I'm the guest and we've switched up. Okay, camera positioning is also wrong now. You see how flimsy and clumsy I am right now, but well,
Okay,
today.
I'm literally sorry for that, because I like this side of my profile, so I told Dhanush, can we please switch places? So thanks for doing that.
And I think for me it's a different perspective sitting on this side. I've never sat
How
on
does
this
it
side.
feel?
It feels a little different and a little overwhelming. But yeah, man. First of all, Shruthi, aka Chili Studio, welcome to my show. I'm super excited to have you here.
Thank you so much. It's an absolute pleasure to be here today, and I'm looking forward to answer all the exciting questions that you have for me.
So tell me, Shruti, when did you start? What was the inspiration to start this journey of experiencing new things and becoming a lifestyle content creator?
It all started in 2015. So basically, I had no absolute plans of becoming a content creator and all of that. I used to follow this Canadian vlogger. Her name is Mimi Icon. So I started watching her videos when I used to travel for travel recommendations, and then I also followed her lifestyle channel on YouTube, and that seemed very interesting. Like, she would just showcase her lifestyle, and she had like millions of followers and subscribers, and she was getting sponsorships, and I was like, what is happening? Like, what exactly is this? I've not even heard something like this before. So I did a lot of research, and then I was like, I was anyway addicted to traveling. That was something that I've been doing ever since a child. So I was like, I have so much content when it comes to travel. So why can't I just, upload all of that, and it can be like a digital travel profile. So I created an Instagram account. So and I started uploading all my travel pictures, and that's how it started basically.
Wow. I mean, it was something that started as a passionate, what do you,
I think it was more about to document my own content, but on a social platform.
okay.
Yeah, so I wasn't even showing my face, or basically I wasn't even there in the pictures. It was
Okay.
only very like scenic pictures, and then I started getting comments saying like, "Can you please show who is the person behind these pictures
Oh,
and
wow.
all of that." I was still not okay with that. First of all, going public, I was like, okay, my Instagram is public now, and I'm like, okay, let me see how this goes. And then almost after like 6 months, I kind of started putting like back profile of my
Yeah?
body, and then after a year, I was comfortable going fully public with me being in the picture. So that's how it all started. But I also started doing a lot of YouTube videos. So I would do like a lot of fashion tips, and also some travel vlogs I used to do on YouTube. So I kept switching between YouTube, Instagram, because both of it requires a lot of time, and I couldn't do both. So I
Yeah.
kept switching.
I'm sure. I think it's every content creator's struggle to
Right.
choose the right kind of platform, the right kind of audience, and the biggest struggle out of them all is actually coming in front of the camera.
Right.
Funny story is that I'm a public speaking coach. Okay, that's how I make my money. But to actually sit in front of the camera and speak, where you don't see the reaction of the audience instantly, you have to wait, upload it, and then in the comment section, like section, you'll get to know whether people liked it.
Right.
So I think it does take a serious amount of courage and then consistency to actually start coming in front of camera. And you must have traveled to quite a number of countries. So I want to know, give me how many countries you've traveled till now, like the number of countries you've traveled till
I
now.
think around 16 or 17.
Wow. So that's from you from the time you were a little child, or was it in the last decade,
No,
or how was it?
it's been in the last decade.
Wow. So 16, 17 countries. Now I'm
Right.
going to ask you an MCQ question. Pick what has been like the top 5 countries, and maybe for the top 2 you can tell me why.
Uh, okay, top 5. Can I give you places instead?
Places
Or
as in?
cities? Cities.
Go for it. Go for it. Whatever you
I
feel.
think for me, the first one is going to be New York City for sure.
Okay.
This is only for experiencing, okay, because I just love the energy there. Like everybody's like hustling, and there's so much of color, there's so much of it's just too noisy, and I just feel like I like that vibe. I really like like if you want to experience like a proper city life, then I think New York is a great place to go to, but I don't think if I can survive there for a long time, honestly. But I really love the vibe of that city for sure. And then second would be California,
Okay.
because I think they have like a balance of city life and then beach life, and it's like life is running at a medium pace, so nobody is in a hurry. You get to do your own things, and if you want snow, it's just 1 hour away. If you want a desert, it's very close. If you want a beach, it's just 5 minutes away. So it's like they have everything, and the food is amazing for vegetarians.
Nice.
Because California is like borders with Mexico. They have some really good Mexican vegetarian options and all of that. So yeah, that would be my second. And it's third and all, like it's difficult to pick because I like so many places.
Give me one more. We'll take your top 3.
Okay, top 3. This is
Let it not be American.
You got it. I just realized that.
Both were American.
Yes. I think I like Bali.
Bali?
Yeah.
Okay.
What was surprising and what was interesting is, so they also pray to like Brahma, Vishnu, Maheshwara. I mean, just like how we do. But the way they look at it and the way their idols are and the way they do their ceremonies, it's all different.
Okay.
So it literally feels like an alien world where same gods have been treated in a different way with
Okay.
different structures and eyes and all of that. So that was very fascinating for me, and the nightlife is just amazing.
Really?
Yeah. I loved, and again vegetarian food. It's like a paradise. So I really loved Bali. I think I can just retire there, like because I have a job where I can work from anywhere. So I think Bali would be like one destination where I would just go there, stay months together, and because you still feel at home because of the food and the temples and all of that. So for me, I'm a very cultural person and I'm a very spiritual person. So if I feel for me, wherever I go, like if I'm living, then I need a temple to be there.
Nice.
So Bali is something that felt very close to my home. So I think Bali will be the third.
Okay.
Yeah, for a holiday or if you want to live there.
Okay, awesome. Now, speaking of the word spirituality, I'm also big into spirituality in my own way.
Okay.
Maybe not through just idol worship, but I do meditation. I try doing yoga very often. And I also like visiting spiritual places a lot, like because I feel there's a lot of depth
Right.
in those places, right? You're not just
Right.
going for the visual or the audio or the kind of smell that you'd get, but you're going there for a deeper sense of meaning, and your travel has a bigger purpose there.
Right.
So apart from Bali and India, which other country, city do you feel is very strong in its spiritual sense? Any other place that comes to your mind?
I think it would be Egypt for sure.
Okay.
Because like first of all, it's one of the oldest civilizations,
Oh, yeah.
right? So when you go there, it just amazes you to see how they had built their temples and those structures and all of that at that era, first of all. So they also had like sun god, moon god, and all of that. And when you go there, you can see how deep they talk about their culture and about their customs and traditions. So I think it would be Egypt.
Wow, nice. And I think I can very much relate to why you said Egypt, because if you actually listen to a lot of philosophers, they derive some of their strongest philosophies from Egypt, right? Like we know that a lot of our meditation centers are in a pyramid shape.
Exactly.
Because a lot of your cosmic energy comes through that.
Right.
And if you see who actually developed these pyramids were the Egyptians who did it, right? And they buried their pharaohs and everybody there.
Exactly.
So I know that Egypt has a very deep sense of spirituality that maybe people today don't know about, but it has been in the roots.
Yes.
Now, speaking of what you do, Shruti, so one of the things that I really, really am curious to know is that now traveling is fun. Traveling is great for your body, mind, and soul. We all know that. But traveling is also expensive.
Right.
Right? So, how do you manage these expenses? Because it's not just traveling, it's the experiences that come with it. Like you have layers of experience there in that country or city or state.
Right.
And you also have you to record, shoot, and come back and edit, right? And you said you should do the editing yourself. Now, how do you manage these expenses? Is it something that you fund by yourself as a passion project, or do you try making money from the work that you're doing and you fund it that way?
So first of all, I always keep keep aside a sum of money just for traveling. Not just me, even my husband. So that's what we've been doing. And also there have been times where I have sponsored both our trips together, and sometimes he has sponsored for both of us. So it's always been that way. And also it depends on which country we are going to, whether you'll have to shell out a lot more money or less money, and seasonal and all of that. And I feel me and my husband, we are smart travelers, I would say.
Okay.
Because so we try to do a lot of cost cutting for sure.
How do you do it? Give me
So-
details. I want details now.
So first things first, see, one advantage is both of us have a valid US visa. So because of that, we get like visa on arrival in most of the countries.
Yes.
So there itself, we save a lot of money on visas, right? So one of the examples is my recent trip to Turkey. So because we had a valid US visa, like our visa costed like 3,000 some change.
Wow.
Whereas if you didn't have a US visa, like an Indian would have to spend somewhere between 7,000 to 15,000 per person for visa. So that's like the first cost cutting, and the second would be to check out the cheapest flight tickets. So what we do is during the entire week, we usually check on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. And surprisingly, for my recent trip, which was to Turkey, on every Sunday it showed the lowest ticket price, and that was very surprising because that never happens.
Right? Usually weekends is higher.
Exactly, weekends is always high, but this time we constantly kept checking, and we had the Google notifications on to let us know when the price drops and all of that. And it was a Sunday, and we got the best deal. And I feel a lot of people don't really research on the credit cards and debit cards that they have, that they have offers, right? Not a lot of people know about it. So
True.
if they actually go and check online, they might have some discount on particular days, like every Wednesday HDFC has something and Yes Bank has something. So like whichever bank card holder you are, you just have to do a research if this particular website is offering some discount. So we do all of that research.
Nice.
Whether it's card offers or website offers or any other airline website offers, we check all of that. So that's the first thing. And then when it comes to stay, so we usually go with Airbnb or
Okay.
we go with hotels, depends.
Okay.
So wherever we're getting the best deal, and we also make sure that any bed and breakfast, any place that we choose to stay always has breakfast.
Okay.
So that way you're cutting costs of going out and eating.
Makes sense.
So that is another smart way to do it, because you anyway have 3 meals of the day, so you can always try outside food for the next 2 meals. So we always make sure we get bed and breakfast, and then it's always city center for us, so that way we avoid traveling.
Traveling, yes.
And again, it's the same with even with hotels and accommodations. It's like check different websites, check for offers, check Airbnb offers, and just do your research. And I'm sure you will get the best deal out of
Yeah.
it. Yeah. So
You got to do research and you got to have a little bit of patience, right?
patience and time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely, patience and time you need to have, because see, we are able to do this because both of us have the similar mindset. But people with families and children and senior citizens, they're like, no, I don't want to go through all of this. Let me just hire a travel agent, which is also good, because I'm not trying to ruin any travel agent business here. So because you asked me how you manage your finances, so this is how we do. Like, we try to travel more smart by cost cutting and all of that.
Makes sense. And I feel because you put in this much effort, you actually get to experience a lot more than what a travel agent could offer you. I feel travel agent is just pure luxury. You want to laze out and you want to just go there and have a break. I feel a travel agent comes to help there. But I feel if you really want to deep dive, and I'm sure a travel agent will also set a time, right? Only in this place you can spend only this much time. But if you actually want to, if you like something a little more, you can't actually work through that and navigate through that.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
True.
So also tell me, what are some of the equipments that you usually carry with yourself to record these lovely videos that you make, or is it just your phone? Because I'm sure a lot of people who are watching this my audience is usually from 18 to 25. Right, and they would be these aspirational travelers and they'd love to make videos on the go. What do you do? How do you take advantage of what you have, and how do you do it?
Honestly, Dhanush, I don't have such fancy equipment with me.
That's good.
I just travel with my latest version of iPhone, whichever is in the market. But right now, I haven't upgraded because honestly, I didn't feel the need to upgrade to 14. So I'm using 13 Pro right now.
Okay.
So everything's just done on my phone. That's it.
Yeah.
But I invest on good tripods. That is like, which has good stability and which is easy for me to use it while traveling.
And I'm sure your husband on the other side would be helping you
Oh,
shoot.
yeah. He's such a gem of a person. Like, I'll be like, enough, I'm tired. He'll be like, one last shot, one last shot. I'll be like, okay. He loves shooting.
Oh, then I think he's a true gem because people would be like, are you done? Are you done? But then now you have a husband who's nudging you one step further to say, listen, we need a better shot.
Exactly. He was that person, but now, like, he's seen me grow and, like, people recognize him also.
Yeah.
So he's like, wow, this is such a good reward. Like, I should
True.
help you more and all of that. So he's also taken so much interest now and he helps me out so much.
Fantastic.
Especially when we are traveling and all, like, he's the one shooting everywhere.
Wow. So guys, remember that there is somebody behind the camera, just like somebody that there is in front of the camera. So the next time you go to a content creator and speak to them, also ask them who's shooting their videos. Because like I always say, there's always a very dedicated camera person behind every successful content creator. And I keep crediting Arvind for that, because Arvind is so meticulous in what he does. And wherever I go, they'll be like, when did you start your podcast? First of all, I say, I didn't start my podcast. We started our podcast. So, so because now think about it. How would this podcast be recording right now without him being behind the camera? Right? So I'm sure that each of them have their contributions that way. And yeah, moving on. Just a reminder to the audience, just get a good iPhone. Now you know why you need an iPhone, because it does the job for you, right?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like, I use an iPhone, but then guys, like, don't go pester your parents saying you need an iPhone now. But to begin with, I think as long as you have a good smartphone which has a good camera. I think you should just start.
Yeah, your OnePlus series are usually the phones which also have a very good camera set. Then you have your iPhones and Samsung, which usually helps. On the other side, I want to ask you a little bit about your journey in content creation. What are some of the things that you could suggest for people who want to start in this field of lifestyle, travel, food? Because it does have its own advantages, or you could say perks, that most people say, oh my god, you get to travel all the time. Oh my god, you get to eat so many different kinds of food. But I'm sure there is some sort of drawback to this also. What is it that you've discovered that other people should keep in mind of if they're starting?
See, first of all, what I'd like to say is not a lot of people say this, but especially the youngsters, right? What's happening now is they're all running behind the numbers. So they just see that reels are going viral, videos are going viral. They're like, oh, followers, overnight followers they're getting, and they just start, right? But nobody is actually getting into it because they're passionate about it or they're interested in it. To be honest, if you're not passionate or if you're not interested in it, please don't get into it, because it is not easy, especially if you want to be consistent for a decade. Then you are definitely not going to do it if you're just starting it for the wrong reasons. So that is my first thing, like, don't do it if you're not interested. And second would be to honestly don't concentrate on the numbers, because uh, your hard work will always pay off for sure. What matters is consistency, and what matters is what you bring to the table. Like, what is it different that you bring to the table,
Correct.
right? Informational content. So, what I believe in is either you have to concentrate on informational content or comedy, right? Or something like styling tips or whatever. So what I feel is it's either entertainment, informational, or comedy. So what happens if you start without passion or interest is you cannot sustain for sure, because everybody sees only the good part of it, right? Like you being invited to events and you being given like free staycations or sponsored travel and all of that. Only people just see all of that, but there's so much hard work that goes behind it, because when you're at that place to experience something, you're not just experiencing but you're also recording. You also need to make sure that you got the right shots, so you'll also have a vision in your head that this is how the video is going to turn out, for which means I need this angle shots, I need to take this vertical, horizontal, because there are so many platforms now. So it's not just for Instagram, you need to shoot for YouTube as well. And in between all of this, you also need to manage your family time, right? Like it is a constant struggle for sure. Like, so even when I travel with my husband, like if it's a sponsored travel especially, we make sure that we at least have 2 nights at that property, because if we spend like 24 hours and just shooting and all of that, we have another 24 hours to actually experience the place.
True.
And the hospitality. So I mean, everything might look very rosy there, because obviously that's why you're there, right? That's what you want to show your audience, because if you're creating content, you want it to be very different, you need to please them. So obviously you're going to concentrate on showing them the best, but nobody talks about this, right? And if you are planning to get into it without any interest or passion, when you're going to face all of this, you're going to be like, I can't do this. I'm just going to give up and get back to what I used to do before. So I think these struggles is something nobody talks about. Even if you want to get into food blogging, right? As I said, so I also do food, but I have too many conditions when it comes to food, because when I'm trying food at restaurants, I don't like wasting it. So even if I try it, the rest of it will be packed for sure. But I see a lot of youngsters nowadays, all they need is content, right? So they just order mindlessly and they just taste, and everything's just been wasted, right? So I think people are not doing it for the right reasons. They're just going behind numbers and followers and all of that, which is not good, is what
Yeah.
I feel.
I was going through another YouTube video where they say if you're chasing metrics, you're chasing the wrong thing, because metrics will always change.
Yeah,
And now, once you achieved your metric, what next?
exactly.
The deeper sense of purpose does not penetrate through, and now you feel like, ha, I just have to do it,
Right.
right? And now you're just doing it because you're scared of losing what you have. But if you're doing it passionately, every single time, it doesn't matter if you have 1 million followers or if you have 1,000 followers, that level of intent is always intact. I think that's the beauty about content creation, isn't it?
Yeah, honestly, so this actually happened to me, right? So, a lot of my reels went viral in the beginning, and then I reached a stage where it didn't go viral. So, it used to just reach my audience and it used to stop. And then for me, it was a sudden shock. And then I was like, okay, maybe I shouldn't be concentrating more on numbers. Let me just concentrate on my content. So, I kept doing that. And then there was a day when I received a couple of messages saying that this particular place has been opened, and I see a lot of content creators covering it, but we are waiting for you to go cover it.
Wow.
So this is something gave me so much satisfaction. I was like, this is what I'm creating content for, you know, like the trust that the audience have on me is what that matters at the end of the day. So because if 10 people are doing it, and if they still want to come back to see what you have to offer, what you have to say about that particular place, then I think you have achieved what you wanted to, right? That trust is what matters.
True, true. I'm sure, and I'm sure if you keep doing this, you don't have to break your head too much. The results will come, and your experiences will get better. And speaking of experiences, tell me one trip, one of your favorites, if you like the best of the best. Out of it could be even from your childhood or now, like the number one trip that stays in your head, and tell me a good, nice story about it.
Uh, oh my God, this is so difficult. I think, I think for me, it would be Egypt.
Okay.
To be honest, not that we had so much fun, but it was so different. Like just to begin with, the minute we landed, every 100 meters there was an army personnel with AK-47s,
Oh, okay.
and they were not in uniforms.
Okay.
So they would look like terrorists, and
Jesus.
me and my husband were like, where have we come? Like, we were so scared, and we were like, have we come to the right place? Like, did we, you know, make a good decision of coming there, going there, and all of that? But then our guide was sweet enough. He told us, like, you know, this is a normal scene here, and this is for your protection, so don't really bother. They're not going to talk to you, or they're not going to bother you. They're just doing their job, so you know, you don't have to be scared. So after a day, we were so used to it, because that was like entering a war zone,
Makes sense.
right? So we were very scared. Then after that, like the first glance of the pyramid was like, oh my God, like it's just amazing, especially when you know the history of that place and at what era they constructed that. It just fascinates you. So I think for me it would definitely be Egypt. And also the food, like I never expected that I would find vegetarian food in Egypt, for sure.
Which is good.
Which was good, yes. So basically we went on a cruise. We went on the River Nile cruise for 3 days, and the chef there got to know that there are two Indians on the cruise. So he came and he spoke to us. He's like, you're from India? He's like, you're vegetarian? We said yes. And he's like, okay, I'll cook local cuisine for you tonight for dinner. And we were shocked. We were like, how sweet. And then he did a sweet dish, and then he also did a main course, which was basically like boiled rice. So they use boiled rice. So he did boiled rice with some capsicum curry kind of a thing, which is a local dish. So he did it without the meat for us.
Okay, wow.
So he's like, this is literally what we eat for lunch. So
Okay.
taste it and tell me how it is.
Okay.
So we loved it.
Okay.
Like both of us, like we always have an open mind, right? When I think you should,
Yeah,
whenever
true.
you travel to
Travel.
different countries, to be honest, I think you should not go with an expectation.
True.
And that's when you'll be able to soak up the real essence of that place. So we love the vegetarian food. So when it comes to food, yes, we loved it. And obviously the history and, you know, so much of culture and heritage, we loved it. And then to have a scary experience, it was this as soon as we entered. So I think Egypt was a very, very different trip and experience for us.
Nice. What was the taste palette like? Was it like as spicy and flavorful as Indian food, or
No.
what was it like?
It was more tangy, like
Okay.
I think the flavor of tomato was infused.
More like a Mexican kind of a thing?
Yes,
Okay,
yes, definitely.
nice,
But
nice.
with it was more like a smoky flavor.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'm sure, like, you know, now I'm just imagining, you know, myself in your shoes traveling as you're speaking about it. And I really like the way you said you need to have an open mindset, because having a fixed, rigid mindset, no, this has to be this way. Man, listen, like traveling is not about you. It's about what happens to you, right? And that whole experience. So now if you're just worried about, oh, I'm not in my comfort zone, I'm not getting the food that I want, it's okay. You can still eat a fruit, you can still eat some oats, you can get something very simple and move on. But if you realize that the experience is far more important than how you feel,
Yeah.
it changes the whole ball game.
Definitely. See, I'll tell you why. Because I'm not going to take the country's name, but especially if you have traveled to a fully developed country, right? If you go there, obviously you're going to get the best of everything, right? So, say your first international trip is to a fully developed country, and then after that, you start traveling to other countries which is not fully developed
Developed,
or
yeah.
something. But if you don't have an open mind, what's going to happen? You're not going to enjoy, right? Because
Correct.
you will start comparing everything to the other countries that you've been to.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing with people living in some other country. Like if they don't have an open mind when they come to India, then they definitely cannot experience what we have to offer, right? So if you have an open mind, then you'll appreciate their food, you'll appreciate their culture, everything.
True. I think that's also a very nice way to start. And I, for one, I can put this in sequence. So the first country I traveled to was Sri Lanka.
Okay.
Okay. And then I went to Nepal, and then I went to Ireland. So these are the only three countries that I've traveled to. And when I went to Ireland, it's the most developed out of the three.
Right.
But then going to Sri Lanka, going to Nepal, and then going to Ireland actually set the tone for me
Exactly.
in a very nice way as to how I could experience it. Now I know when I go to the US, I'm going to have a burst of experiences, right? Like I'm going to get everything in magnanimous proportions.
Exactly.
But then when you go to a Vietnam or when you go to an Egypt, it's going to rub you straight off your feet, and you're going to be like, seriously?
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
yes. This is what I'm talking about.
True. I was just trying to picture Nepal, okay? Like Nepal is a great country, but because you're from India, 70 to 60% of the cuisine, of the people, the lifestyle, the way they operate around is very similar. So you have to stay there for 2-3 days to actually see the marginal difference between Nepal and India. But you can't just go there, this is also like India, same thing, same. It's not that way, but you have to like really ease it out. And that's when you see the difference, right?
Right.
Now, also another thing that I want to know is, in most of these travel videos, or like let's say you when you see these Dubai people putting a travel video and promoting tourism, one of the things that really, in fact, the most important element of travel is not the place, but the people in it.
Right.
Right? So tell me about how you bond with the localites, or do you actually do it? And if you do, what is your approach to it? Because a lot of Indians are very reserved when you go outside, but when foreigners come here, we jump on them straight up. They become celebrities, walking Hugh Jackmans, and they're really like, it's different in India. But when you go outside, you can't expect number one to be treated the same way as a foreigner. How do you build this rapport and connection with the localites there?
So, firstly, if someone is looking, to make friends abroad, I would recommend them to stay in hostels.
Okay.
But because we are a couple, I usually travel mostly with my parents or my in-laws, or just me and my husband or my friends. So we never got a chance to stay at hostels. So what we do instead is, especially when we travel to cities, right? So we always choose to do a pub crawl. So that we feel that is the only way to meet localites, because we always make sure we do pub crawl. Only because if you want to experience a nightlife, it's impossible to visit so many pubs and so many bars in one night.
Correct.
Obviously, you'll have very limited time. You can't visit pubs every day. So we always do pub crawls. So that way they cover 4 to 5 pubs and bars, which is very, very local. And then you can also mingle with all the other people who come for the pub crawl. So till now, whichever major cities we have gone to, like big cities, we have always done pub crawls, and we have always met new people.
Wow.
And we have connected on Instagram as well. And we also do a lot of group tours. So when we do group tours, you guys are traveling together in the bus, but once you reach the destination, you're left free. So you're by yourself. But when you're in the bus, you get to talk, and you get to introduce yourself, from which country you are and where you've come and what you do and blah blah blah. So that's another way to meet locals. And also to if you stay in Airbnbs. So if you're staying in an Airbnb where the host him or her
Nice.
are living in the place, then that is also like a very good thing, because they'll tell you like hidden gems and all
Correct.
the local places that you
Correct.
can visit. So that's another good thing. But also like another thing is, whenever we travel, we always opt for local commute, like how we have our metros.
Correct.
Like that, when we go abroad, we always choose the local transportation which is meant for the public, something like the bus or the tram or the metro or whatever. So there we also get to meet a lot of people. Like if you give eye contact and if they give a smile, or if you give a smile, you just know that okay, they are going to talk to you for sure. So we always do go, both of us, we always make the first step.
Nice.
So that's how we meet locals.
Yeah, and it's quite important, right, to truly understand the flavor, the nature of those people and the
Yes.
country. You have to spend time with these set of people.
Definitely. And one more thing that I want to say. So, out of my travel experiences, what I've realized is a lot of foreigners think that India is a very dangerous country.
Oh yeah.
They, of course, they know that okay, India is all about culture, tradition, food and color and all of that, but they're like, I'm scared to go to India. And I don't know why they have that assumption. So one thing I would like to say is, if any of y'all from India, or if you're an Indian who's traveling abroad, and if you meet people, please promote your own country.
Yeah, you
Right?
better
Like,
do it.
please
Yeah.
tell them to come and visit our country, how beautiful it is. Talk about from whichever state you are. Let them know that every state is like a country. We have so much to offer, and it is definitely safe. We've been living here.
Yeah, yeah.
So it can't be that bad. So always make sure to promote your own country when you're meeting foreigners, because that's very, very important. And that is something me and my husband always do, because I just want to share one incident that happened in Turkey. So we met this guy who was from UK, and he told us that he's visited Sri Lanka 8 times
Okay.
in a row. And we're like, why didn't you come to India? You were so close to, it's so close to Sri Lanka. It's just one flight away. He's like, India and Sri Lanka, it's all the same. We're like, what? We are like, who told you this? And we're like, oh my God. Like, we're like, dude, please come sit here. And we gave him like some 15 minutes bhashan. We're like, please don't get us wrong, but Sri Lanka, India, 2 different countries. We're like, in India, we have so many states, and every state is like a country. We have different culture, different, clothes, food, everything is different. It's like, duh, next time you go to Sri Lanka, then we like, please come to India. Like, it's like, India, only Taj is there. What else is there? We're
Oh.
like, no, that's another assumption. We're like, please come to the south, go to the east, west. There's so much more. So that's when we realized, like, please talk about our country. Like, tell them that, please visit India and promote our country.
Yeah.
That is something that's very important.
To be honest, I mean, thank God most of the people watching it, 99.99% are Indians, and I can touch my heart and say, a lot of these European countries are good for 3 days or 4 days. They're super boring, to be honest. Like if you're an Indian, the hustle, bustle,
Right.
the festivities, the amount of emotions you experience in a country like India is so different, so high. But if you go to a Europe, for example, I stayed in Ireland, right? Irish people know only one thing. Like, no offense, I have great Irish friends and I love them to bits. But their way of association, like socialization, is only through alcohol, right?
Yeah.
They just go drink. Now, everybody enjoys a mug of beer. Everybody enjoys their pub hopping and all of these things. But you should also realize there's so much more, and unfortunately if you're there, you're just that way, right? So I'm sure I'd keep telling my European friends, if you come to India, your minds are going to explode. It's just going to explode. It's so quiet here. It's like an asylum chamber here. What do you do here for a year? I lost it when I was there. So I did my masters there. So I really lost my mind being there. I'm like, why is it so boring? Like, where is my tea wala? Where is my bel puri wala? I want to eat something. I have to walk down to a Tesco 2 kilometers to eat even a slice of bread.
Oh God.
So it was crazy. It was just crazy that way, man.
I think as Indians, all of us need like bonding, like family, friends, and all of that.
Yeah.
I'm so sure like all the Indians living in different countries, they've just been able to survive only because they have a good friend circle.
Correct. If
Right?
not, it's torture, pure torture.
Yeah.
It's pure torture. Man, and I also feel we have to become ambassadors of our country. We got to wear our country with a little more pride, you know. No, I mean, of course, there are bad things, there are black elements here and there, but that's there in
My
any
God,
country.
that's there everywhere.
Everywhere, yeah,
Everywhere.
yeah,
Even
yeah.
in the most developed country, it is
Is
there
there.
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think we have to start embracing it. Like first we have to learn about our own culture so that we can speak the right things to other people, right? Because I've known parts of the world where they think we still go on elephants and horses and we don't. I'm sure we have more traffic than they can ever think of in their lives, right?
Right.
Yeah, it's so crazy. And I think this is the part of traveling that really broadens your mind
Exactly.
to such a deep level that you discover that the world, you're nothing. You're such a negligible part in this whole wide world.
Exactly. True.
Man. So, yeah, just a couple of questions. We're coming to the fag end of the podcast. So, I just want to ask you a couple of things. Um, One of the things while traveling, the good part is that you don't know what to expect, and the bad part is you don't know what to expect. Because sometimes it could get a little unpredictable. For an avid traveler like you, how do you prepare yourself for something unpredictable?
So that's the thing, right? You can't be prepared.
Just go with the flow.
Yeah, if you're prepared, then it's not unpredictable. You know what to do. So yeah, that's the thing. So we have had a couple of such experiences, and one of the most recent one was just before the pandemic. So we traveled to Vietnam and Cambodia, and it was a work trip, and it was in March 2019.
Okay.
So, so when we left India, India had like just one COVID case somewhere in Kerala or Mumbai or something. And we're like, okay, there's just one case in the entire nation, which is our second most populated country. Like, what can happen, right? So everything was normal everywhere. Like even when we went to Vietnam and Cambodia, everything was normal there. Like tourism was open, people were like, doing everything. But then when we came like towards the end of our trip, our flight got cancelled.
Oh.
Yeah, so Cambodia to Bangalore, it got cancelled, and then we are like, okay, now this thing is getting real. Like, what's happening? By then, I think India had like 21 cases or something like that.
Okay.
But we didn't know that our country will act so fast,
Okay.
right? So they started closing all the bordering neighboring countries, flights of all the neighboring countries. So then we booked another flight, which also got cancelled. Then we booked our third flight, which also got cancelled.
My God.
And then we booked our fourth flight, and we went to the airport, and we were almost at the check-in counter, and he's like, we can't let you board. And we're like, why? Then he's like, you have a connection through Malaysia, and Malaysia has banned like transit passengers.
Oh God.
We are like, oh no, like what are we going to do now? So we literally started sobbing at the airport, but after that we got back, and like I called my husband. I was like, I just need to come back home and like just book some flight. All I need now is like home. Then he's like, okay, let me have a look at it. Then finally we booked it through Singapore Airlines, and luckily Singapore did not close borders. Oh my God, I don't even want to think about that. Then we did come back, but yeah, that was like one of the worst experiences, and that is something that you can't be prepared, because
True.
like we booked 3-4 flight tickets and all 4 got cancelled, right? So these are the things that you can't really be prepared, but you just have to act smart at the moment. That's it.
I'm sure. And I think this is a very gratitude kind of a moment you'll have for home, right? And for family for
Yeah.
helping you out. And
And
making,
trust me, none of my parents knew about all of this.
if they got to know, it would have been something else.
Yes. Only my husband knew it, and I was like, I hope I come back home. Otherwise, we had something ready. So in Cambodia, there is this street called the pub street. So all the pubs and the nightlife, everything is on one street. And there is one Indian family living there, and they serve South Indian food, and like I think they are like Tamilians who have an Indian restaurant or something like that. So me and my friend had decided, in case we're going to be stuck in Cambodia for 2-3 months, I'm going to go to their house and I'm going to work there, and I'll be like, for next 3 months I'm going to stay here. So we're like, okay. sorted. We are sorted now, and then but finally we did come back.
I'm sure, man. And traveling gives you. I mean, that's the best part about traveling. You know, experiences are unpredictable, and that's the best part, right?
Yeah.
So yeah. Okay. So we've spoken so much about travel, and one part that you also genuinely put effort into is the food part.
Yeah.
So tell me about food, and you specifically love vegetarian food, right? Te- Tell me about food and the kind of experiences. Like, I want to know what are some of the really good restaurants or dishes that have been the highlights of your culinary experiences over the last, let's say, 2-3 years in Bangalore, and then we'll go international.
Firstly, I think I started as a travel content creator, but then when I saw that it is really important to talk about, the vegetarian food being available in rest of the parts of the world, that's when I started creating content about food as well. And then there was a major shift between from travel to food when the pandemic happened.
Okay.
So when the pandemic happened, we had so many travel restrictions and everything was shut. Obviously, we couldn't travel, and that's when I was like feeling stuck. I was like, what am I going to create now, right? So I just observed that what is it that we do now, because people can't travel. So what are people doing? They are just going out to cafes and restaurants and they're just chilling with their friends. That's what even I and my husband were doing. So we're like, why can't I just document this? So I started shooting restaurants and cafes. Nobody were doing it back then, and I gave it a twist because it was for the local audience. I started doing it in Kannada.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so and that was the stage when all my reels went viral, and I saw the major growth happen.
Nice.
So, so that's when the switch happened from travel to food. But then after the restrictions were lifted, I switched back to travel, and now it's a bit of both, like travel and food.
Yeah.
So when you ask me for experiences, I would say like we have always enjoyed food wherever we have gone. Like as I told you, we never visit Indian restaurants when we go abroad because we like to try the local cuisine. Like if they have, then why not, right? If they have a vegetarian option, then why not? So we really loved the Mexican food in California. We haven't been to Mexico, so the closest we could go is to California. So we love the vegetarian food in Mexico. I think other than that, Vietnam as well. So what happens in Vietnam is there is a section of Vietnamese who are pure vegetarians.
Okay.
Yeah, so they are like, you can say like Pandit type.
Okay.
So they do have that in their culture. So it was very easy to find vegetarian food. So in the menu they have a section because their local people itself, like a section of them are pure vegetarians. So it was very easy for me to find vegetarian food in Vietnam, which was also tasty, very tasty.
Okay.
So yeah, Vietnam was good, California was good. Turkey, I think their breads are really good.
Breads, yeah.
Yeah, so we enjoyed their breads as well.
Hummus,
And
pita bread, and all
yes,
that.
all of that was good. And a couple of local dishes also, like sweets, baklava.
Oh my god, yeah, baklava.
It was too good. And we did find good vegetarian options.
Okay.
We loved it.
So if you go to Turkey or a place like that, do you think walking into any baklava store would do justice, or is there
No.
a specific store that you actually have to go to?
No. I think you should go to Hafiz Mustafa.
Okay.
I think it was started in 1800s or something. So what was the difference? I'll tell you. So we tried baklava in multiple places, but we just felt it was very sweet.
Oh.
So in Hafiz Mustafa, you can say it's like our MTR.
Ah.
It's like started by a guy in 1800s, but they're really popular out there. And the sweet level in their baklava is very less.
Oh.
So you feel like indulging in it even
True,
more, because
true.
other places, if you have a bite, you'll be like, oh my god, I'm so full. This is like too much of sweet. But their portion size is like this big, but I don't have a sweet tooth. But I was able to finish that whole thing.
Okay. Okay, man. Anyway, Shruti, it was really a pleasure having you here. I, for one, enjoyed this conversation. I felt I was traveling sitting down on this chair itself. I think that's the beautiful thing about traveling and
Yes,
food.
yes.
I had an amazing conversation, and I'm sure a lot of people watching have gotten some tips, tricks, and stories to take back
I
home.
hope. Thank you so much for having me. This was fun, honestly. Like I had a heavy meal and came and I was like, I'm feeling so sleepy. I don't feel. But I think you just did a good job.
Thank you.
Like I had so much fun having this. The best part is this was so conversational.
Yeah.
So I think, thank you so much. You're
Cheers,
a
man.
great host.
Thank you. And hopefully we can do a part 2 of this sometime.
Yes, definitely.
Cheers.